Hey folks, it's Shane from Performance EV. Today we're going to rebuild our custom drive shafts. Hey folks, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you new to this channel, this is my project to put a Nissan Leaf motor into a Porsche 911. Over the past few weeks we've been working on some fabrication around the battery box, and that's still ongoing, but as it's a nice day I decided I want to get out of the workshop, do some work outside, and I've got the perfect project or piece of work for that. So as some of you may remember, quite a few months ago I built some custom drive shafts using Nissan Leaf CV joint on one side, Porsche CV joint on the other, and I basically welded the two shafts where I'd cut them, and that was perfect for driving around. Not so great when I want to get it on the road. So a few weeks ago, well actually about a month ago, 2 months ago, I took those out of the car and sent them off to some professionals, and more recently than that we've received a big package back that has the shafts that they've made up. Haven't really had a look in there yet. I've just double checked that there is something in there, but now I think it's time to actually rebuild them and take all the components that they've sent back, including those shiny new shafts that they've constructed for me, and just get them, you know, build out the CV joints, get everything reattached and back the way it's supposed to be, so we can put them back in the car and then be in a position to, you know, drive it once the battery's in place.
So let's look first at the actual shafts that got back. So I sent the complete shafts with CV joints, everything, up to the guys at the engineering firm, so they could see exactly what we were working with, and also because the Porsche side of the shafts is kind of compression fit in place, and I didn't have the tools to be able to undo that carefully. So they stripped it all apart and then made up the shafts for me based on the kind of the middle bit of that, and they've just sent everything back to me in pieces. So it's going to be a bit of a jigsaw to get it back together. So this is the core of what I sent off to get copied. So obviously we had the CV joints at either end, but this is the important piece that I needed them to take care of. And you know, the shafts themselves, the ones I've done, they're not terrible, and they did for driving around the, you know, the driveway and in and out the garage and stuff. But they're obviously, you've got points of failure here where I've welded them, or potential points of failure, and also this one was slightly damaged, so I ended up having to kind of cut into the into a bit of the shaft in order to get the CV joint on. So that's not ideal, and would, you know, not the end of the world, but not what you want. So anyway, they took these as the kind of template and produced something even better. So check out these beauties. You can still see the milling marks on them, but they're, yeah, really nicely done, really nicely made, arrow straight, and with yeah, they really feel seriously strong. I've weighed them, and they are actually slightly heavier than the ones I'd taken, and that's including the kind of bits that I've welded on. So they should be able to handle whatever power I put through them. And to be honest, the company that did them, their area of specialism is doing these things for our autocross racers and auto trackers, I think. So it's designed to take a beating. So yeah, let's see what else we got back. So with all these parts now, the challenge is that they are extremely mucky. You've got a few different types of grease going on between the different sides of the joints, and you really don't want to mix different types of CV axle grease. They can have bad interactions and end up just gumming everything up. So we're going to give everything a ridiculously good clean, get them all nice and shiny, and then we can start looking at putting them back together. I had tried to record some audio properly with this, but because of someone doing some gardening nearby, you couldn't hear a word I said. So we'll go with this overdubbing instead, and get through the clean as quickly as possible. We've got some nice clean parts and some really grubby shop towels. Time to clear it up and then get on with the rebuild side of things. Okay, now we've got everything cleaned up, we're going to start the process of rebuilding these CV joints. So I'm going to start with the Porsche side because that is by far going to be the hardest part. We're just going to work through it and see what we come up against and solve the problems as we find them. So yeah, let's get the components together first of all. So I've kept the components for each joint together, but I've got no way of knowing, which ball goes into which groove. But hopefully by doing that, it'll limit any issues with where things have worn. But to be honest, everything seems to be in pretty stable condition. There's no real nicks or issues. So fortunately, I managed to take a look at one of these before it was taken apart. So this faces towards the outside of the shaft, as does the more beveled edge of this one, with these obviously living kind of one inside the other. Like that. So we'll get this onto one of the shafts and go from there. That actually slotted on really nicely. It's a fantastic fit. There's no slots on nicely, but there's no give in it whatsoever. Okay, so with this type of CV axle, just as a learning from my part, what you want is basically the small lug here to line up to the larger space here, otherwise you end up with just a solid axle. So yeah, I'll get this in and we'll see how it goes. Awesome, so that's working now. Obviously it needs to be greased. I'm not going to move it around too much before that's done. Now we need to get the cap on it. So as this had to be pried off, because this is a kind of compression fit, we're going to have to get it back on with a bit of brute force. So I've got my handy panel beating kit, and we'll just see what we can do to get this to fit. So this is getting there. It's taking a while because obviously I'm having to actually do a couple of millimeters at a time, but it should be secure. There's a couple of little tears in the metal where it was pried maybe a little bit too hard, and I'll try and I don't know, weld them or braze them or something just to make sure it's secure and that it's not a point of weakness. Might do the rest of this off camera. I won't bore you with the details. One down, the other to go.
And here they are, the two fully completed Porsche side of the drive shafts. So it's a nice tight seal all round. We've only got a couple of tiny nicks in the metal, which, as I said, I'll probably just weld up together to make them fully secure. And then I might just put a little bit of seam sealer all the way around just to supplement the rubber gasket that's inside the joint and make sure none of the grease can leak out. So now all we need to do is get the boots on and fit up the other side, and then we'll have two fully completed drive shafts.
So there we have it. New drive shafts, half shafts, CV joints. I think they look absolutely fantastic. You know, way better than anything I could have done myself. Definitely one of the things where you just need to get the professionals involved and get them to do it. I'm happy with how I was able to put them back together, and that we've got all our kind of range of movement back and they're secure. So you know, these are more or less ready to go back in the car, and I think that's a great point to reach. Still got a few things I want to do, as I said, a little bit of spot welding to just keep the metal from splitting. You know, these are under a lot of pressure, they rotate a lot, there's a lot of changes in direction. I want to make sure they don't fall apart. Obviously I need to be careful though, I don't want to put too much heat through anything because it is hardened steel. But yeah, great sense of achievement in getting that done, and that's going to take us one step closer to getting the car on the road, and once it is, being able to actually get an MOT and have it legally drivable. So we'll go back and start looking at some of the other things over the coming weeks, including the suspension parts that I showed in the last video, as well as the battery box, which is still in progress. But yeah, you know, thanks for joining us on this journey. If you're only watching for the first time and you like what you're seeing, please consider subscribing. As always, likes and comments are gratefully appreciated. But yeah, till next time, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.